You know, there's something very peculiar about the human race. We are the only creatures on this planet who spend their entire lives trying to feel safe. The birds do not. They rise with the sun, sing their songs, build their nests, and never seem to worry if there'll be enough worms tomorrow. The cats quite happily curl up in the sun without a savings account or insurance policy. And yet, we human beings, magnificent, intelligent, imaginative as we are, spend nearly every waking hour building walls of protection around ourselves. We chase money to secure the future. We build reputations to secure our identities. We form nations and armies to secure our borders. And we cling to beliefs to secure our souls. But all the while, there's a trembling under our skin, because something deep down knows none of it is ever truly secure. The trap of the pursuit. You see, we have been taught from the very beginning that the good life lies somewhere in the future. We are told, work hard now, study hard, plan well, save your money, marry the right person, believe the right things, and one day you'll arrive. Arrive where? At the point where everything finally makes sense, where the heart no longer trembles, and the universe agrees to play by your rules. But of course, that day never comes. The harder we try to make life safe, the more anxious we become, because the very act of trying to hold life still, trying to make it secure, is like trying to grab a handful of water. The tighter you squeeze, the less you have. The pursuit of security creates insecurity. It's a self-defeating game. We imagine that if only we had enough money, enough prestige, enough control over the future, then we could finally relax. But the moment you get a little, you want more. Because the problem was never out there. It was never the lack of things. It was the lack of peace with the moment itself. The great escape. Now, this is what I like to call the great escape. The grand illusion of our age, perhaps of every age. We are constantly escaping from the present moment. We escape into memories of the past, and we escape into fantasies of the future. We escape through work, through entertainment, through religion, through endless thinking, all in the name of becoming secure. And yet, what we are really doing is running away from the only place that life ever truly happens. Now, you see, the mind is a marvelous servant, but a terrible master. It's an instrument for navigating the world, for planning, for reasoning. But we have mistaken the map for the territory. We live in our heads, in our stories, in our shoulds and somedays. We forget to live now. We are forever saying, when I finish my degree, then I'll be happy. When I buy the house, when I get the promotion, when I retire, then I'll finally rest. And then we die, still waiting for life to begin. The illusion of control. At the root of this escape is a belief that if we can control enough, we can finally feel safe. We want control over our surroundings, our health, our partners, even over our own minds. But control, you see, is a phantom. Because to control something, you must be separate from it. And the truth is, you are not separate from the universe. You are part of it like a wave in the ocean. Imagine a wave trying to control the sea. It rises, it falls, it cannot separate itself from the tides. And yet we behave as though we were somehow different from nature, as though we stood outside it, directing it like a conductor waving his baton at the storm. We try to make life predictable. We schedule it, legislate it, insure it, and spiritualize it. But life is not a business to be managed, it's a mystery to be lived. And so long as we keep insisting that it ought to be under our command, we will live in perpetual fear, because life will never obey us. The myth of the permanent self. Now, this fear, this insecurity is not just about losing things. It goes deeper than that. It's the fear of not being at all. We are haunted by impermanence. We are terrified of death because we imagine that we are something separate from the flow of existence. We think, I am this body, this name, this story. And so we cling to that story with all our might. We build monuments to ourselves through fame, through family, through Facebook. We leave behind legacies and libraries and love letters to eternity, hoping that something of me will survive. But who is this me? When you were 5 years old, you were a completely different bundle of sensations and thoughts. And when you are 80, you will be another. The atoms in your body are replaced every few years. Even your memories are not fixed. They are stories retold and reshaped each time you recall them. So where is this permanent I we're trying to secure? It's a phantom, a pattern in motion, a dance. Trying to make it eternal is like trying to nail a shadow to the wall. The paradox of insecurity. And here lies the great paradox. The more you try to be secure, the less secure you feel. The more you cling, the more things slip away. Because insecurity is the nature of life. Everything changes, everything flows. The only thing you can count on is that nothing will stay the same. But this isn't bad news, it's wonderful, because it means life is alive. A perfectly secure life would be a frozen one, a kind of eternal prison. No surprises, no risks, no laughter, no love. To live is to be uncertain, to be vulnerable. And it is in that vulnerability that we find beauty. Think of music. A single note held forever would be unbearable. Music exists because of change, because of rhythm, flow, and impermanence. So too with life. Security, then, is not found by locking everything down, but by dancing with the insecurity of existence. The art of letting go. The problem, you see, is not that life is insecure. It's that we keep fighting that insecurity. We want to float down the river of time while holding on to the rocks. And then we wonder why we are always in pain. But when you let go, really let go, you discover something astonishing. You don't fall into nothingness. You fall into life itself. You discover that you were never separate from the flow. Letting go is not giving up, it's waking up. It's seeing that the present moment is not something you must control, but something you can trust. And this trust is not blind faith, it's the deep recognition that you are the process, not the product. You are the unfolding, not the outcome. When you breathe, you do not control each molecule of air. You simply let the breath happen. When your heart beats, you don't command it, it beats because life moves through you. And when you stop fighting that movement, a remarkable peace arises. You see, ladies and gentlemen, there's something deeply curious about the way we human beings live. We are the most restless of creatures, constantly on the move, constantly searching, constantly running from something we can't quite name. We call it the pursuit of security, the pursuit of peace, of happiness, of certainty. We want to be safe. Safe in love, safe in money, safe in beliefs, safe in life, and even curiously enough, safe in death. But as Alan Watts once put it, the pursuit of security is an attempt to find something that doesn't exist. It is, in essence, the great escape. An escape from the one thing that is real, this present, living, unpredictable moment. Now, imagine for a moment that you are standing on the deck of a ship in the middle of the ocean. The waves rise and fall, the wind shifts without warning, and the horizon stretches infinitely in every direction. You are told by your teachers, your parents, your culture that somewhere on this endless ocean there is an island of perfect safety, where the storms never reach you, where the waves never threaten, where nothing changes, and everything is as you wish it to be. And so, naturally, you spend your life searching for it. You work harder, you pray deeper, you save more, you plan more carefully, all in the hope that one day you'll find that island. But the longer you sail, the more you realize the ocean never ends. And the island was never there. Now, this is the tragedy and the comedy of human existence. We believe that life in all its impermanence should somehow become permanent. That love should last forever, that wealth should never fade, that the body should never age, that truth should never shift. But life, my friends, is not a fixed structure. It is not a rock to stand upon, it is a flowing stream. And when you try to dam it up, when you try to hold it still, you kill it. To be secure in an insecure world is to be frozen in time. And to be frozen in time is to be dead. You see, Our minds are constantly playing a little trick on us. It tells us that once we have this, or once we solve that, we'll finally rest. We'll finally breathe. We'll finally be okay. So we chase money because it promises freedom. We chase love because it promises belonging. We chase religion because it promises eternity. And yet, if you notice carefully, each of these pursuits ends up bringing the very anxiety it promised to cure. The man who seeks wealth is never satisfied. The lover who clings to the beloved is never at peace. The believer who demands proof of God is never secure in his faith. Why? Because the search for security implies insecurity. The moment you begin to want to be safe, you have already admitted that you are not. And the more you try to be safe, the more you remind yourself that danger might still be out there. Alan Watts would often say, "The desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. You cannot have one without the other. It's like trying to hold your breath forever to avoid dying, or trying to freeze a river to keep it from flowing away. The very act of clinging creates the fear of loss. And so we run in circles. We run from pain, from uncertainty, from change. And in doing so, we run right past the joy of being alive." Now, I want you to think about how this plays out in everyday life. We live in a culture that worships control. We plan our careers, our families, our retirements, sometimes even our funerals with meticulous precision. We have insurance for our homes, our cars, our lives, our phones, even our pets. We lock our doors, secure our passwords, back up our files, track our steps, and monitor our heartbeats. We call this progress. But deep down, something still trembles. That faint, unnameable sense that no matter how many locks we install, no matter how many plans we make, something unpredictable remains. And that, my friends, is the truth of life whispering through the cracks. The truth that there is no final guarantee. There never was. Because life, by its very nature, is risk. It is spontaneous. It is uncertain. And that is what makes it alive. You might say, "But surely we need some security. We can't live in total chaos." Of course not. We need practical stability, the kind that lets us function. We build houses to protect us from the rain. We save money to buy food. We learn skills to survive. But that's not what I'm talking about. The great illusion isn't about practical security, it's about psychological security. That deep, endless craving to be certain that everything will be okay. That we'll always be loved. That we'll never be hurt. That life will unfold according to our plans. And that, dear friends, is the fantasy that keeps us restless. Because the moment you demand that life conform to your script, you have begun to fear every unscripted moment.
Now, the great irony is this. The moment you stop trying to escape insecurity, the moment you stop fighting it, running from it, controlling it, you discover that you were never unsafe to begin with. It's a kind of cosmic joke. The thing we were running from was never chasing us. When you let go of your need to be certain, you find yourself in the very heart of peace. Not the peace of control, but the peace of surrender. It is the peace that comes when you no longer need to escape. When you can sit quietly in the midst of life's storm and say, "Yes, this too is part of it." Watts once said, "To have faith is to trust yourself to the water." When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float. That's the great secret. Faith not as belief in something, but as trust in the process. Trust in life itself. When you trust life, you stop fighting its movement. You stop demanding guarantees. You stop looking for the island of safety in an endless sea. And then, quite paradoxically, you discover that the sea itself carries you. You begin to float. But this kind of trust is terrifying to the mind, because the mind lives on control. It survives by labeling, predicting, analyzing. It wants to know what's next, what it means, and how it ends. And yet, the very act of knowing cuts you off from experiencing. When you analyze the dance, you stop dancing. When you cling to the rhythm, you lose the beat. Life is not something to be captured, it's something to be lived. And when you stop demanding that it stand still, it becomes endlessly rich. You see, the great escape, the pursuit of security, is really the mind's rebellion against death. Because to accept insecurity is to accept death. And to accept death is to realize that you were never separate from life at all. We try to escape death by building legacies, by seeking fame, by leaving marks on history. But the truth is, you are not something in life. You are life. You are not the wave trying to outlast the sea. You are the sea itself, taking form for a while, then returning to yourself. So why be afraid? The wave rises and falls, but the water remains. And when you see this clearly, truly see it, something miraculous happens. You begin to laugh, not because everything is perfect, but because you realize it doesn't have to be. You realize that life doesn't need to be secure to be beautiful. It doesn't need to be certain to be meaningful. It only needs to be lived fully, presently, openly. You laugh because you've been running your whole life. And suddenly, you see there was nowhere to run. You were already home. So, my friends, if there's any great escape worth making, it's not the escape from insecurity, it's the escape from the pursuit of security. It's the escape from the endless chase. To live freely is to stop demanding guarantees. It is to walk through life as through music, dancing, not marching, trusting, not clinging, flowing, not freezing. Because the wisdom of insecurity is this: you can never be safe, but you can be alive. And in being alive right here, right now, you find the only real security there ever was, the simple, unguarded miracle of being. So I invite you, as you leave this talk, to look around, to feel the air on your skin, to listen to the sound of your breath, to sense the pulse of this very moment. This, right here, is it. Not tomorrow, not when you've achieved something or arrived somewhere, not when the stars align or the bank balance grows. This trembling, impermanent, fleeting instant is where life happens. And when you stop trying to secure it, you discover it's already secure in its very impermanence. So let us not chase safety anymore. Let us dance in the wind. Let us live without fences. Let us trust the waves and float. For the great escape is not from life's uncertainty, but from our fear of it. And once you make that escape, you are, at last, free.